The city sparkled under the New Year's fireworks, a symphony of light reflecting in the glass of my penthouse. I had spent the evening in celebration, believing that life had finally reached a moment of balance. As a fashion mogul, I was used to control, over trends, over businesses, over my own image. But no amount of power could prepare me for what Ye Jun would do next. I turned to him, expecting a smile, a toast, a quiet acknowledgement of the years we had spent together. Instead, he dropped the bombshell. "Lu Ming," he said, voice calm, almost cruel, as if he had rehearsed every syllable. "I'm engaged. To Mei Ling. She can give me the heir I've been waiting for." The words hit me like a jagged shard of ice. My knees buckled. "What?" I managed, clutching the edge of the counter for support. He shrugged, as if my disbelief were a minor inconvenience. "You've always been incapable of bearing an heir, Ming. I've waited long enough." I felt the world tilt, the noise of fireworks suddenly deafening. My body collapsed to the floor, heart racing, breath shallow. Everything I had built, every moment of trust, every ounce of loyalty, it all shattered in an instant. I wanted to scream, to fight, to lash out, but my body betrayed me. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was public, humiliating, and absolute. And as I lay there, trembling, a strange clarity began to rise amidst the pain. I was not a victim. I was Lu Ming, a woman who had built empires, who had conquered boardrooms, who had outshone rivals. And now I was reborn. I lifted my head, eyes blazing with a cold, unyielding fire. "Ye Jun," I whispered through gritted teeth, "you've made a mistake. You've underestimated me, and you will regret it." Just then, Ren Xu's presence made itself known. She had always been my fiercest competitor, our rivalry legendary in the fashion world. And yet, even in this moment of personal collapse, there was a spark of respect in her eyes. "You need an ally," Xu said quietly, voice low but steady. "Someone who understands fire when it burns. You've been betrayed, Ming. But fire is a tool, not a weakness. Use it." I looked at her, seeing not just a rival, but the first glimmer of possibility. "And what do you want in return?" I asked, wary but intrigued. She smirked, a calculated, dangerous curve of her lips. "I want someone who doesn't need me, Ming. Someone who can rise from ashes and still burn brighter than anyone else. Together, we can burn his empire to the ground." I felt my pulse quicken. "Then we do it," I said, every word heavy with determination. "Together, we rise. And he will fall." As the fireworks illuminated the skyline, I stood taller, my spine straight, my heart alight with fury and purpose. Ye Jun had tried to break me. He had failed. And now, I was no longer just a fashion mogul. I was a dragon, ready to incinerate anyone who stood in my way. Ren Xu extended her hand, sharp eyes gleaming. "Let's set the world on fire, Ming." I took it, feeling the heat of ambition, vengeance, and possibility flow between us. "Let's burn it all down," I said, voice steady, unwavering, and for the first time that night free. The dragon had awakened. And no one, not Ye Jun, not anyone, would survive unscathed. The city didn't sleep after betrayal. It buzzed, pulsed, and moved forward as if nothing monumental had happened. But inside me, something ancient and furious had woken up. Ren Xu drove us away from the penthouse in silence. The streetlights slid over her face in broken gold, revealing not sympathy, but understanding. That was better. I didn't need pity. "You're not shaking," she finally said. "I'm done shaking," I replied, my voice hoarse but steady. "He humiliated me in front of the world. I won't give him the satisfaction of seeing me weak again." She glanced at me, lips twitching. "Good. Weak women don't survive in our world." I laughed quietly, bitter. "Neither do loyal ones." We arrived at her office, sharp lines, dark glass, everything about it screamed control. She poured me a glass of water, watching me as if assessing the damage. "Tell me everything," Xu said. "Not about your feelings." About Ye Jun's blind spots. I sat straighter, letting business instincts replace heartbreak. He built his family's company on old alliances. He thinks reputation is untouchable. He underestimates rivals who don't flatter him. And you, she asked. He always thought I was decoration. The wife who made him look powerful. Sue smirked. Then he has already lost. There was a pause, thick and heavy, until she broke it. Why trust me? She asked. I've tried to destroy you more times than I can count, because you never pretended to love me, I said simply. And because you respect strength. She looked away, jaw tightening. I've watched you for years, Ming. You dominate every room. Tonight was the first time I saw you bleed. I met her eyes. Don't mistake pain for weakness. Dragons bleed fire. A low chuckle escaped her. You're dangerous when you're angry. I've always been dangerous, I replied. I just don't apologize anymore. She leaned closer across the desk. Then let's make him regret breathing. Together. Our hands brushed when I reached for the file. She slid toward me. Electricity sparked. Not romantic, not yet, but something sharp, intoxicating. I want him stripped of everything, I said. Not just his wealth, his pride. Sue nodded. We start quietly. Pressure where he can't see it coming. And his fiancée? I asked. She's a pawn, Sue said coldly. The real enemy is the man who thought you were disposable. My chest tightened. I stood and walked to the window, the city sprawling beneath me like a battlefield. Under those fireworks, he erased me, but I refused to disappear. Sue came to stand beside me. You're not disappearing, Ming. You're transforming. I turned to her. Why are you really doing this? She hesitated. Because I've spent my life fighting men like him. Men who think women exist to decorate their success. You don't decorate, you conquer. Something inside me softened, just a fraction. And what do you get out of it? Her eyes met mine, unflinching. The only thing I've ever wanted, an equal. The word echoed between us. Outside, the last of the fireworks faded. But inside me, the dragon stretched its wings for the first time. Morning light cut through the office blinds, dust motes dancing in the air like sparks from a fire. Ren Xu and I sat across from each other, papers, spreadsheets, and strategy notes spread across the mahogany table. Every move had to be calculated. One misstep, and Ye Jun could see us coming, or worse, manipulate the narrative to make me look desperate. You're calm, Sue said, leaning back in her chair, arms crossed. I expected more drama. I smirked, sipping my coffee. Drama doesn't win wars. Precision does. I've cried enough to know where tears won't reach. She raised an eyebrow. Touché. So, first step. I tapped the documents. We cut off his influence quietly. Secure the shareholders who respect me. Expose mismanagement without touching the public yet. Let him feel the ground slipping under his feet before he realizes I'm not just angry, I'm lethal. Sue nodded, clearly impressed. You've got fire in your veins, Ming. I've seen it before, but tonight this is different. He's going to regret underestimating you. I leaned forward, fingers brushing a contract. He already has. And you'll notice. I don't ask for help lightly. I take it when it's necessary. With you, it's strategic, not personal. Her lips twitched in a small smile. Good. I like my allies efficient and terrifying. But don't think for a second that working together makes us friends. You need me, Ming, not the other way around. I studied her for a moment, noting the fire in her eyes, the subtle respect lurking beneath the cold exterior. I don't need anyone, I said evenly. But I choose those who match my ambition. You fit the bill. She chuckled, shaking her head. Flattery will get you nowhere, dragon. Call it acknowledgement, I said. I don't need flattery. I need results. And tonight, results are all that matter. Sue leaned closer, voice dropping. And if this goes perfectly, what happens to Ye Jun when he realizes the world isn't just watching him fail, it's watching you rise? I smiled, a dangerous curve of my lips. Then he learns exactly why dragons aren't tamed. We spent the day dissecting Ye Jun's empire, weak departments, greedy partners, and overlooked subsidiaries. Every flaw became a weapon in our hands. Every alliance he took for granted would become leverage for our plan. At one point, Su paused and looked at me seriously. Ming, you're not just smart. You're ruthless when you need to be. Don't forget to use that. Men like him, they don't respond to apologies or tears. They respond to fire. I felt a shiver run down my spine, not from fear, but anticipation. Then fire it is, I said. And Su, thank you for seeing me, not as a rival tonight, but as a force to be reckoned with. She smirked, leaning back, confident and calculating. Don't thank me yet. You haven't burned the empire to the ground, but you're already learning how to roar. I allowed a slow smile to curve my lips, feeling the surge of power and control that had been absent since Ye Jun's betrayal. Outside, the city moved on, oblivious to the storm I was about to unleash. But I was ready. I was alive. And with Su by my side, not as a friend, but as a mirror of my ambition, I would rise higher than I had ever dreamed. The dragon had stretched its wings. And soon, Ye Jun would see the flames for himself. The boardroom smelled of polished wood and ambition. Papers were stacked neatly, laptops hummed quietly, and the city lights outside reminded me that everything I had lost and everything I would gain was just a move away. Ren Xu stood at the head of the table, sharp and commanding. Are you ready, Ming? She asked, her eyes locking onto mine. There was no trace of friendship here, only calculation, respect, and a hint of something unspoken that made my pulse quicken. I'm ready, I said, keeping my tone even. We're not just reclaiming what he took from me. We're taking it all. Every subsidiary, every alliance, every shred of influence. He won't see it coming. Su smirked. I like that fire. You've been hurt, but you're not weak. Weakness is for those who beg forgiveness. You command it. I felt a thrill at her words, a dangerous exhilaration. Then let's command it. The first stage was subtle, quietly swaying shareholders, presenting alternative investment plans, and exposing mismanagement in departments Ye Jun thought untouchable. Every email, every phone call, every meeting was a chess move. And as the dominoes began to fall, I felt the old sting of betrayal shift into something sharper, triumph. At one point, Su leaned close, her voice low and deliberate. He thinks he's untouchable because you're his wife. But remember, Ming, he never understood the dragon he married. And dragons burn quietly before they strike. I caught her gaze, a shiver running down my spine. Not fear, not uncertainty, but the awareness of power, intensity, and desire. Quiet, yes, I said softly. But when the flames erupt, they will remember. She smiled, a slow, dangerous curve of lips. And the world will watch. Hours passed in meticulous planning, strategy, and execution. Our movements were precise, calculated, lethal. And all the while, I couldn't ignore the magnetic pull of her presence. Ren Xu, who had always been my rival, now my partner in vengeance, my equal in fire. Every glance, every word, every touch across the table sent a thrill that had nothing to do with business. During a brief pause, Su handed me a folder. This is the leverage you need for the next meeting. The one that will make him sweat. I took it, fingers brushing hers. Sparks. A small, fleeting moment, but it lingered, heavier than the contracts between us. Thank you, I murmured, voice lower than necessary. Don't thank me, she said, eyes dark, compelling. Save your gratitude for after we watch him fall. And maybe, after that, you'll let me see the fire that made me respect you all these years. I swallowed, heart racing. You might already see it, Su. The fire isn't hiding anymore. The first round of the takeover was a success. Ye Jun's confidence cracked, his partners wavered, and whispers of doubt began to spread. I could almost hear the old arrogance of the man who humiliated me begin to splinter. And as we stood side by side in the office, reviewing the results, I realized something profound. The fire wasn't just mine anymore. It was ours. Su glanced at me, smirk tugging at her lips. Not bad, dragon. Not bad at all. I returned the smirk, heat lacing my chest. This is only the beginning. Outside, the city glimmered with possibility. Inside, two women, once rivals, stood ready to set the world ablaze. And I felt the first real stirrings of something dangerous, exhilarating, and undeniable between us. The dragon had begun to roar, and the fire was just getting started. The city had no idea what was coming. Neither did Ye Jun. And that gave me an intoxicating sense of power. Every phone call, every boardroom maneuver, every carefully placed rumor worked like a match against dry kindling. Ren Xu and I sat in her office, walls of glass overlooking the skyline, sipping espresso. The numbers were moving in our favor, shareholders swayed, alliances shifted, and Ye Jun's confidence began to crumble. He's panicking, Xu said, leaning back with that calm, dangerous smile of hers. His arrogance is finally cracking. You can see it in his emails. He's frantic, desperate. I let a slow smile curve my lips. Good. Let him feel the fire. Let him know that the dragon he humiliated is no longer just surviving, she's striking. Xu's eyes met mine, sharp, intense, and something more. You've changed, Ming. This fire in you, it's different from anything I've seen. Stronger, hotter. My pulse quickened, not from fear, but from the undeniable heat between us. I leaned a fraction closer. And you? You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching him fall. She smirked, and the air seemed to thrum with tension. I'm enjoying the rise of the dragon standing next to me. And maybe, just maybe, I'm enjoying standing close enough to feel the heat. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Careful, Xu. Flames can burn both ways. That's the point, she said softly, her gaze lingering on mine, heavy and magnetic. I want to see how high you'll soar, and maybe I want to soar with you. The words hung between us like sparks ready to ignite. I wanted to reach out, close the gap, feel her fire and mine collide, but business came first. Always. I'm ready for the next move, I said, setting the folder on the table. We corner him publicly now. He can't ignore the shareholders' vote. His image will crack, and the heiress will see the truth too. Xu nodded, leaning over the documents with me. Our shoulders brushed, and my breath caught in a way I couldn't ignore. He's underestimated us, I murmured. Every step he took, he thought I was weak. He thought I'd cry, beg, disappear. But he didn't account for the dragon inside me. She looked at me then, her face close enough that I could see every glint in her eyes. Dragons burn, Ming. And we're not just roaring, we're incinerating. My heart raced, but it wasn't just from revenge. It was from the electricity in the room, from the unspoken tension between us. I caught her hand over mine for a fleeting moment, the touch brief but searing. Together, I whispered. Together, Xu echoed, a dangerous, promising smile on her lips. By the time the shareholder meeting rolled around, Ye Jun was visibly unsteady. His usual smugness faltered under scrutiny, and whispers of doubt echoed in the room. Every carefully placed fact, every strategic alliance Xu and I had built, came together like a crescendo. The dragon was rising, and there was no way back for him. After the meeting, as we walked side by side through the empty corridors of his once mighty empire, the tension between us was palpable. I glanced at Xu, heart pounding. You've been invaluable, I admitted, voice softer than intended. She caught my gaze, leaning in close, her voice low, intimate. I've been waiting for someone who doesn't need me, but who commands respect, power, and fire. That someone is you, Ming. I swallowed, feeling heat in my chest, a mixture of triumph and something else, something intoxicating and forbidden. Then maybe we both get what we want. Her lips brushed mine briefly, teasing, a promise rather than a surrender. Maybe, she said, voice husky with possibility. Outside, the city lights flickered like embers, a reminder that the night belonged to us, and to the fire we had unleashed. The dragon had roared, and the inferno had only just begun. The morning air in the city felt charged, as if it, too, knew the storm we were about to unleash. Ren Xu and I reviewed the final documents, every clause designed to strip Ye Jun of his power, his empire, and his arrogance. He doesn't see it coming, Xu said, a small, sharp smile tugging at her lips. His confidence is crumbling faster than I expected. I exhaled slowly, feeling the fire in my chest grow.
Good.
Let him learn what happens when you underestimate a dragon. Xu's gaze lingered on me longer than usual. You've changed, Ming. The woman I admired from afar, she's become something else entirely. Dangerous, brilliant, unyielding. My pulse quickened. That's the point, Xu. Dangerous is necessary when someone tries to erase you. She leaned closer, the faint scent of her perfume mingling with the adrenaline in the room. And maybe dangerous in other ways too, she murmured, her tone soft yet charged. I met her eyes, heat lacing through my veins. Other ways? I asked, teasing yet deliberate. She let a slow, knowing smile curve her lips. You'll see, she said, fingers brushing mine lightly over the contract sheets. The touch was brief, but ignited a spark I couldn't ignore. We worked in tandem that day, every step calculated. Xu presented evidence to the board, revealing mismanagement, financial discrepancies, and Ye Jun's increasingly reckless decisions. Every shareholder we convinced was a blow to him. Every rumor spread quietly but strategically, a nail in the coffin. By the evening, Ye Jun's empire trembled. His public image, once untouchable, was in ruins. The media whispered, investors pulled back, and the heiress realized the man she had married was nothing but a hollow, arrogant shell. I felt a rush of vindication, but as satisfying as it was, another part of me burned with a different heat, the heat of standing beside Ren Xu, sharing in this triumph. Look at him, I whispered, watching the news feeds. He thought he could humiliate me, and now, Xu finished, her voice low and intimate, he sees the dragon he married. And that dragon doesn't bow. I turned to her, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to just us, the air thick with tension, the electricity undeniable. Xu, I couldn't have done this without you, I said, voice softening. She stepped closer, eyes dark and unwavering.
And you didn't need me, Ming.
That's what makes you irresistible. Someone who doesn't depend on me, but could still set the world on fire with me. I've waited years to stand beside someone like that. My chest tightened as I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Then stand with me, I murmured. Through everything. Through fire. Through triumph, through us. Her hand covered mine, firm and steady. I'm here, she said, voice husky with promise. And I'm not leaving. We leaned into each other, a slow, deliberate moment of connection that wasn't just about attraction. It was respect, admiration, and the fire of two forces colliding. Her lips brushed mine lightly, teasing, charging the air around us. I felt alive, victorious, and for the first time since Ye Jun's betrayal, completely in control, not just of my empire, but of my heart. Outside, the city glittered with possibility, reflecting our triumph and the new chapter we were writing. Ye Jun's empire lay in ashes, and in that ruin, I found strength, power, and an undeniable connection with Ren Xu. The dragon had risen fully, unbroken, and now, beside her, I could burn brighter than ever. The boardroom smelled of polished wood and anticipation. Every seat was filled with people who had once doubted me, who had underestimated me. Now, they watched as I, Lu Ming, took the stage, not as the betrayed wife, but as the unstoppable force reshaping the empire that Ye Jun had tried to claim as his own. Ren Xu stood at my side, as fierce and commanding as ever. Her presence was more than a comfort. It was a reminder that I was not alone in this fire. Ready to finish this? She asked, eyes glittering with challenge and something more personal. I nodded, fingers flexing against the edge of the podium. More than ready. This is the final act. We unveiled the restructuring plan we had meticulously crafted, every point a strategic strike against Ye Jun's legacy. The shareholders nodded, murmured, and signed off on measures that would strip him of authority, influence, and access to critical assets. Each signature was a blow, each nod a confirmation. The dragon had returned, and she was untouchable. Xu leaned closer during a pause, voice low. "He's watching this unfold, isn't he?" I smiled, a dangerous curve of lips. I imagine he's realizing that the woman he humiliated is the one rewriting the rules. And she's not asking for forgiveness. She's taking what's hers. Sue's gaze lingered on me, intense, almost possessive. "And maybe she's taking something else too," she murmured, brushing her hand against mine across the table. The contact was brief, but it sent a jolt straight to my chest. I met her eyes, my pulse accelerating. "And what's that?" Her lips twitched in a half-smile. "Someone who doesn't need me, but makes me want to stand beside her anyway."
Heat rose in my chest.
"Then stand beside me," I whispered, voice steady but charged. "Not just in business. Stand with me, in every way that matters." She leaned closer, closing the distance, her breath warm against my ear. "I already am, Ming. And I'm not leaving." The final votes were cast. Ye Jun's power evaporated under the weight of evidence, strategy, and the undeniable brilliance of our partnership. The man who had humiliated me was left exposed, penniless, and utterly defeated. Watching his expression crumble was sweeter than any champagne toast. As the boardroom emptied, Sue and I lingered. The tension between us, once just flickers of recognition and respect, had grown into a palpable heat neither of us could ignore. I turned to her, taking her hand in mine. "We did it," I said softly. "Together." "We did more than that," she replied, her thumb brushing the back of my hand. "We burned the past to ashes and made a path for ourselves. And somewhere along the way, I realized that I don't just respect you, Ming. I want more." A shiver ran through me, a mixture of triumph and something far more intimate. "I feel the same," I admitted, stepping closer. "I never needed anyone but with you. I want you. I want us." Her lips met mine, then tentative at first, testing, teasing, then deepening into something all-consuming. The fire between us was no longer just ambition or vengeance. It was desire, passion, and mutual recognition of power. I pulled back slightly, breathless, eyes locking with hers. "No one, not Ye Jun, not the world, will ever take this from me," I said, voice steady, unwavering. "And I won't let anyone take you either." Sue smiled, dangerous and tender all at once. "Good, because I'm not leaving. And I'm not letting anyone get in your way." The city stretched beyond the windows, glittering with possibility. But inside, in the glow of our victory, the heat of our connection, and the echo of every slight, every betrayal, I felt complete. The dragon had fully awakened, and beside Ren Xu, she wasn't just rising. She was soaring. The city skyline glittered like a crown beneath the setting sun, but the true crown belonged to me now. Not because of wealth or power, but because I had reclaimed every piece of myself that Ye Jun had tried to destroy. Every humiliation, every betrayal, every ounce of doubt had forged me into something stronger, sharper, unstoppable. Ren Xu stood beside me on the rooftop of our newly merged empire headquarters, the wind-teasing strands of hair across her face. "You did it," she said softly, voice low with awe. "You didn't just survive. You conquered." I turned to her, smiling. "We did it," I corrected, letting my fingers brush against hers. "You and I together." She smirked, eyes glittering with mischief and admiration. "Together, yes. But make no mistake, Ming, the fire was always yours. I just learned to dance within it." I laughed quietly, the sound light, free, and filled with triumph. "Then dance with me now," I said, stepping closer, feeling the heat of her body against mine. Sue didn't hesitate. Her hand found mine, gripping firmly. "Always," she said. "Through every storm, every battle, every empire." The empire was ours, not just the business, but the shared victories, the calculated revenge that had left Ye Jun humiliated and penniless. He had vanished from the public eye, a cautionary tale whispered among boardrooms. The man who had tried to erase me was gone, replaced by the woman who had risen from ashes. I glanced down at the documents confirming the final transfers, the last of Ye Jun's assets stripped and reassigned. He finally understands what it means to underestimate me, I murmured. Sue's lips brushed mine, soft but electric. And he'll never forget it, she said, pulling me closer. My heart hammered, but not from fear. This was exhilaration, triumph, and the undeniable pull of desire. I let myself melt into her, letting every piece of pain and every victory wash over me in this moment. You've changed me too, I admitted, voice barely above a whisper. I never expected someone like you, Sue, to make me feel alive in more than one way. Her hand cupped my cheek, eyes dark and steady. I've waited for the woman who doesn't need anyone to need me, Ming. The woman who could burn everything down and still stand unshaken. That woman is you, and I want her beside me, always. The wind tugged at our hair, the city lights below sparkling like embers from a fire we had ignited together. I leaned in, letting our lips meet fully, the kiss slow, deliberate, and filled with the promise of everything to come. I'm yours, I whispered, pressing my forehead to hers. Not because I need you, but because I choose you. Every day. And I choose you, Sue replied, voice husky with emotion. Every day. Through fire, through triumph, through love. The dragon inside me roared, not with anger this time, but with fulfillment. The empire, the revenge, the humiliation of Ye Jun, they were all behind me now. Ahead lay possibility, passion, and a partnership built on respect, fire, and undeniable desire. I took her hand, squeezing it firmly. Let's build something even greater than what he could ever imagine, I said, eyes sparkling. Together. Sue smiled, lips brushing mine in a final, tender promise. Together always. And for the first time in years, I felt completely, utterly whole. The dragon had reclaimed her throne, and beside her, Ren Xu was not just a partner in power, but the only woman who had ever truly ignited her heart. The city sprawled beneath us, a kingdom of light and shadows, but nothing could outshine the fire burning between us. The dragon had risen, and she would reign, unbroken, untamed, and loved fiercely.